The 2016 presidential election formally concluded today after a joint session of Congress certified the Electoral College vote, electing Donald J. Trump as our 45th president. The vote didn't go without something of a fight, brief, sort of obnoxious skirmishes on the House floor as several obnoxious obstructionists protested some votes from the states of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Missouri. Here's how it went.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama on the grounds that the electoral votes were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given, and that the electors were not lawfully certified, especially given the confirmed and illegal activities engaged by the government of Russia designed to interfere with our election and the widespread violations of the Voting Rights Act that unlawfully suppressed thousands of votes in the state of Alabama.
Mindless representation, that is called. It all fell flat, and he was hardly alone. There were a few others indulging themselves and annoying their colleagues, after which Vice President Biden said, "It's over." Trump handily winning with 304 electoral votes to Clinton's 227. He actually earned 306, but two louts. Well, they betrayed themselves. Joining me now, Byron, New York, Fox News contributor, chief political correspondent with the Washington Examiner, and Lee Carter, partner with Maslansky and Partners. Good evening to you both, and I have to say that's a delightful moment. It's done. We can wrap up the presidential contest, and the winner is Donald J. Trump.
Donald J. Trump is the president.
What do you make of people? I'm not even going to mention the names of those congressmen. They are so annoying. I mean, somebody from, I just can't tell you how obnoxious they are.
Well, I think they might forget which country they're representing. It seemed more like I was watching a foreign parliament where they were getting all rebel-rousy and silly. It's just not the way that we're run. At this point, it is what it is, and I agree with Joe Biden. It's over.
Right. And what was it Biden said, Byron? He was at the end. He said something like "All hail the Queen" or something. He was talking about maturity today, and so that's what he resorted to. Your thoughts?
Well, I would be surprised if it had ended any other way. I mean, after all, there was a whole effort when the Electoral College voted last month to try to influence that. We've seen this. And by the way, we did see this the last time in the year 2000. After that very, very contested election, there were some members of Congress who stood up in the House during the Electoral College certification, protested. And the interesting twist there was that Al Gore, the loser of that election, was the sitting vice president at the time and had to rule them out of order. Right. They were working on his behalf. So
you're saying that this
even weirder.
As annoying as this is, it isn't the first time that we've been annoyed by silly SOBs anyway, in the joint session. What do you make of all of this consternation over Russians trying to intervene in our election? A president who told us that he knew about it in September, probably before, but talked about it with Putin, but did nothing about it, said he had cut it out, in fact, but obviously hadn't, at least according to his own intelligence agencies. And the American public knew about it in October. They still did nothing. But now, in these final hours of the lame duck Obama administration, he wants to have a big talk about it.
Look, I think it's really, really complicated. Russia is and has been a thorn in our side. We have had difficult relations, and Obama's now suddenly deciding to take a hard line, and he's making it political about this election. When instead, if they wanted to be successful about taking a hard line on Russia, you have to elevate the conversation to cybersecurity and meddling in us overall. This is a mistake because it's just becoming a political skirmish, and people aren't getting on board with it. And I think people are confused by it. The argument's not being made.
Well, let's be clear about who isn't getting on board with it. Even the Democrats aren't getting on board with it because the left appears to be so silly and utterly just, I mean, they're being stupid. Byron, I mean, this is a reach too far even for the Schumer clowns, for the head clown himself, don't you think?
Well, there's no doubt that this is mostly just partisan politics, although the issue of Russian hacking in general is something that you know very well. Republicans have criticized the Obama administration for not being tougher on it over the years. There's so many different moving parts in this story. But I think this unclassified version of the report that was released today is not going to satisfy a lot of people because it's a series of conclusions without any of the evidence that underlies the conclusions. So if you're inclined to be skeptical, you're still going to be skeptical after seeing this report.
And after you see this report, be sure you look at this element of it, and I want to bring this up, the full screen contained within the report about what looks to be, at least the intelligence agency's assessment, of the Putin motivation. Moscow's approach evolved over the course of the campaign based on Russia's understanding of the electoral prospects of the two main candidates. When it appeared to Moscow that Secretary Clinton was likely to win the election, the Russian influence campaign began to focus more on undermining her future presidency. It reads blackmail. It does not read in support of Donald Trump. They never expected, according to the reports of the very agencies that this Obama White House politicized and pushed to carry out their stratagem of subversion, blows up even on the pages of the report that was released to the public.
You know, it's funny, I was just reading that segment right before we came on, and, you know, the thing to remember here is that Putin and the Russians were reading the American press, they were following the election, and they thought Clinton was going to win because everybody who was commenting in the press thought Clinton was going to win. They
By the way, you mean especially
like
the same idiots who are trying to explain to Donald Trump why he shouldn't use the most effective communication tool he has, which is his Twitter account.
Correct.
That he uses to great effect and which drives the left-wing media nuts because they can't color, filter, and distort his words.
It's absolutely his way of being heard, and it's the only way that he can be heard unfiltered, and he's using it to set the tone, set the conversation, and everybody's discussing what he puts out there, and I think it's very, very effective, even though people might label it dangerous.
Only left-wing idiots will do that, or right-wing idiots who still can't quite mature to the point and understand that the will of the people sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, actually matters and shapes outcomes in our electoral process.